Okay, so I think March 2024 has been the strongest movie month for me in a long time. Hi guys, I hope you're doing really well. My name is Sarah and welcome to What the Horror, the channel where we talk about horror movies old and new. Today is my recap of everything that I watched in the month of March of 2024. Now, this episode is late. I don't know when this episode is coming out exactly, but it is either a week late or 2 weeks late. But believe me, it is worth the wait because this month of Letterboxd views is full to the brim of hearts and 4 stars, 4.5 stars, and 5-star reviews. I honestly believe this is one of my strongest viewing months in a long time. So if you're new to my monthly recap episodes, what I basically do is go through everything that I watched in the previous month. It's quite self-explanatory. I cover TV shows and films, both rewatches, new watches, and new releases. The TV shows I talk about first, and then I go on to the films. Basically with the films, I just go through chronological order of what I have watched and logged on Letterboxd. And if you're not already following me on Letterboxd, there is a link to my profile down in the description box below. Okay, so let's just get into the list because I'm excited to talk about the previous month. Let's start with the TV shows. If you watched my recap in February, you will know 2 of the TV shows that already are going to be mentioned because I have started making my way through the entirety of 2 shows and they're basically going to be mentioned in every single monthly recap. The first one is The X-Files Season 3. This is my 3rd attempt at trying to make it through the entirety of X-Files, and so far it's going pretty well. I am nearing the end of Season 3. I think I have Season 4 and then a movie to watch. I need to double check what order they come in. Again, if you watched my recap of February, you will know that I wasn't completely enamoured with Season 2 of The X-Files. I understand that difficulties arose from Gillian Anderson being pregnant and so wasn't available for all of the film, and they were also restricted in what she could do physically, and there was a lot of the story that kept Mulder and Scully separate from each other. There was also this strange thing where because Scully wasn't there for a little bit because of something that had happened to her character, there was a change in the character of Mulder, who is my favourite of the 2, and I didn't like the direction they were going with him. Luckily, when Scully's character returned, they did bring Mulder back to form, and I was hopeful for the direction of Season 3. And I needn't have worried because Season 3, we are back on form, baby. This is back to being as strong as Season 1. Season 2 ended with a to be continued episode, which then continued into the first 2 episodes of Season 3. It was a really big story, really delving into the overall arcing story of the existence of extraterrestrials and the Smoking Man's involvement in keeping it all covered up. So they were really interesting. We then went back to the Monster of the Week format, and this season has had some really good Monster of the Week episodes. You do get a mixture of some that are a little bit more baffling, some that go into the horror side of it, some that go into the sort of political side of things, and then you get some light-hearted daft episodes. So you do get that lovely mixture, really, really good stories. Characters are back on form. I really have nothing negative to say about Season 3 of X-Files, except for one thing, and it is really starting to grate on me now, and I do feel it's such a shame. And that is the character of Scully. Now, in the 90s and the 80s, we had this big movement in sci-fi, sort of slash sci-fi horror, where you had some really, really strong female characters. You had Catherine Janeway in Voyager, you had Scully in X-Files, you had Sarah Connor in The Terminator, and, Scully was really used as, girl power. It was the 90s after all. And she is a good character. There's lots of strengths to her, but it does irritate me how this character is written, in that she is religious and has faith, blind faith in her religion, but she's also a scientist, so she needs proof and fact. And yet, despite having physically seen proof of the existence of aliens and other creatures, like Mulder says, after everything we've been through, you still don't believe it. She's willing to have blind faith in religion, but not blind faith in aliens. She's needing scientific proof of certain things, and she's had the scientific proof of aliens. And yet, neither one of these characteristics lead her to believe in the existence of aliens. And every episode, in spite of her having held an alien fetus in her hand, in spite of her, well, I won't say everything, but all the things that she's witnessed, just in case they're spoilers, the character still, every episode is going, I don't believe this, Mulder. Have you listened to yourself, Mulder? It's the same sentences every time. And I think the writing of that does this character a disservice. This is a bugbear of mine. I hope it doesn't continue through the rest of them, but we will see. The other TV series that I am talking about today that was in my February recap is Star Trek The Next Generation, because, yep, I own it. I am a big Trekkie nerd. I love Star Trek, and I don't care. I own it. And I am absolutely, I cannot tell you how much I am enjoying rewatching The Next Generation. I haven't watched this properly since I was a child. This was my favourite as a child. Then as I got older, I started to like others like Deep Space Nine and Voyager. And I really, really liked the reboot of the original series with the films they did with Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto. Really, really liked those. But revisiting The Next Generation as an adult, oh, so much joy. There are episodes that are so heartwarming and emotional that deal with, looking at humanity and certain characteristics, certain things that we value. Some really moving episodes. There are some really exciting, sort of adventurous episodes, which is fun as well. And then there are some that make me laugh so much. I always knew Jean-Luc Picard was cool, but I didn't realise how sassy and sarcastic he is. Patrick Stewart is just a gem. He's an absolute diamond, and his performance as this character is wonderful. I did have an issue with the beginning of season 3. One of my favourite characters in the whole of Star Trek is Data, beautifully performed by Brent Spiner, but this character itself is a wonderful tool to explore humanity and morality and politics and things like that. And I felt like after season 2, they stopped using this character and there was very little time with Data. And I thought, okay, this is a shame if this is going to continue through season 3. But I needn't have worried, because as we hit about the halfway mark, Data actually got 2, maybe 3 episodes focused on him. And they were some of the best ones in terms of the writing and questions that were raised through it. Again, beautifully performed. So yeah, that was my only bugbear with season 3, but that changed. So yep, still having a wonderful time with it. Okay, then I like to have a TV show that I'm not paying too much attention to. I can have it on in the background if I'm doing some housework or if I'm editing. And I noticed that Netflix had dropped some later seasons of CSI, the original Las Vegas one. Now, back in the day when CSI came out, I loved these shows. I always preferred the Las Vegas one to New York and Miami, but it just felt like, I mean, I can't remember when they came out. Was it 90s or noughties? But it just felt like a whole movement, like a whole moment. And I know you know. If you are from this era and you watch CSI, I think you know what I'm talking about. I see you. I know. We all did it. I think it was the Miami one. And what was his name? It was like Horace or something. And he would come on to the scene at the beginning. So set the scene. I'm setting the scene. There's a bookshop, okay? Someone's been killed. They're lying on the floor. This guy turns up, ginger hair, black suit. Anyway, doesn't matter. He turns up and he'll look at the body and he'll be like, I'm going to solve this murder. I'm good at solving murders. You might say I wrote the book on it. Wow! And then it cuts into the title card and the music cuts in. We all did it. We all did the pun and the glasses on. Very, very cool. Anyway, cut to modern day. I'm intrigued to see if I would still enjoy... I'm just entertaining myself with my little bit there. Yeah, I was intrigued to see if I would still enjoy these. These were seasons I hadn't seen yet. They had Lawrence Fishburne in, so I was like, cool, let's check this out. I've been enjoying it. It's been great. It's an easy one to have in the background and not pay too much attention to. Then one day when I was editing, I wasn't in the mood for CSI. I wanted something different, and there is this British TV show called Whitechapel. There are 4 seasons of it, I believe. I feel like the first season is the strongest. It stars Rupert Penry. Is it Rupert Penry Jones? And what's his name? I'll put his name somewhere here. But it also stars Steve Pemberton, who is one of my favourite human beings on this planet. I just love everything that he does. He's a comedian, actor, writer in England. He did The League of Gentlemen. He does Inside Number 9. He is in Benidorm. He's also in Whitechapel. Whitechapel is set in the area of Whitechapel within London, and the first season has a copycat killer of Jack the Ripper. He is recreating the Jack the Ripper murders, and Steve Pemberton's character is an expert on it, and he sees in the news these murders, and he goes to the police force that's investigating it and says, this is what you're dealing with. This is a format that is then carried through the other seasons. In the second season, it is people recreating the Cray twins from 1960s London, and then 3 and 4, they're usually a 2-part episode, each one kind of copying a crime from history. Whether they're real ones or not, I don't know. Based on the fact that the first 2 seasons are, makes me think they are as well. But I love that it has this dark element to it. Some of them are quite scary episodes. They're very gruesome, especially the first one. And then you have the history element. I have seen this multiple times now. It's like a comfort watch. The other seasons are fine, but the first one is so good with the Jack the Ripper element and getting to know the characters and utilising the streets of London, the older parts of it as well. Really good time. I would highly recommend that one, especially if you're watching this as a horror fan, if you can find it. There's a really good horror element to it. Okay, then I also started watching Taskmaster season 17. This one started up on March 28th, so it just snuck in this, what I watched in March, but I love Taskmaster so much. We are always watching it in this house, even when it's a season we've seen before. We're always looping through it. Most days we'll watch an episode of Taskmaster. It's so comforting, it's so funny, it's so whimsical and daft. So we've been watching it since season 7. We started watching it because James Acaster was in it, and we love James Acaster, and then we're like, wow, this show is actually great, and we've just kept going, and we've gone back and watched 1 to 6. But this season 17 I was so excited about because Steve Pemberton is in it. Mentioned him from Whitechapel. The other people in it I didn't really know, but having seen the first episode, I quite like it, quite excited to follow through with it. It's just a really good time. There are, if you can't see it on, is it 4OD? Or whatever it is, it's the Channel 4 streaming thing. If you can't see it on there, there's loads of stuff on YouTube. But yeah, I would highly recommend that. Good time. Cannot wait for the rest of this season. And the final thing I watched for TV was the found footage phenomenon documentary on Shudder. You guys will already know that I did my evolution of found footage episode and the little companion piece of a found footage watch list. This was a big help with my research. Was it the best documentary ever? Probably not, but it was useful, it was interesting, I learned things I didn't know before, and most importantly, which will become evident as we talk about the films, I have grown more respect for the found footage genre, or subgenre. So I'm grateful to it for that. Okay, moving on to films. I'm just pulling up my diary here on Letterboxd. There is going to be a pattern with some of these, but there's also going to be a little bit of variety. But the first one I watched on the 3rd of March was Creep. Not the 2004 one, but the 2014 one. This is, in my opinion, one of the best found footage films I have ever seen. I went into this thinking that I knew what would happen, what the story would be about. I have seen clips of this in, scariest moments or best found footage films or whatever it is. I went into it thinking, okay, this character rocks up to film this one, and this one is not what he appears to be. He's more dangerous than you think, and this guy's probably going to end up in danger. So I went into it thinking I'm going to give it a go because I'm making my watch list of found footage, but I don't expect a lot. And I was completely wrong. The first half of the film was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It delivered what I was expecting. The second half took me by complete surprise and was wonderfully refreshing and surprising. I had such a good time with this film in the second half because I had no idea. The two people in it, I'm going to find their names because I feel like it's disrespectful not knowing their names. One second. Okay, so Mark Duplass as Joseph and Patrick Bryce as Aaron. They are amazing. They're the directors and writers and producers of it as well, I believe. But saying that the film just follows these two, their performances are wonderful. It is engaging. It is interesting. Every shot in the film makes sense. It is dynamically filmed, so you're never bored, even though it's just these two characters walking in the woods essentially for a good chunk of the beginning bit. So much fun. I cannot wait to watch the second one. I don't expect it to be as good as the first because the first was wonderful. I gave Creep 4 stars out of 5 and a heart. My mini-me had already seen it as well. He'd watched it with some of his friends and kept saying to me, this film is great, you've got to watch it. So as soon as I'd finished Creep, I went to him, I was like, I've seen it, I loved it. And we were doing that whole thing of, what did you think? And what about this scene? And what did you think to this bit? Oh, it was so fun. Then on the 6th of March, I watched Willow Creek from 2013. This one I watched just because I thought it sounded quite fun. It's got that guy, Bryce Johnson from Pretty Little Liars, and him and his girlfriend go off to try and find Bigfoot. They go into Bigfoot country. Now, I have heard complaints of this film being very, very slow, and it is for, I would say, the first 2/3 of the film. But if you don't mind a slow-paced film, and if you like beautiful settings of woodlands and hillsides and mountains, you will enjoy this. This is a lovely film to watch. I watched it on a morning, and just the sunniness of it and them just hiking up these mountains through these woods. It was such a lovely environment to be in. And then the slow build is worth the payoff at the end, because the final third of the film, even though it's not crazy action-packed, the tension that has been built at this point is, wonderful. I think I've said wonderful a lot in this episode, but it is really good. It works really well. The tension is built, maintained, and never drops until the end. And the ending hits with quite a punch, but I know some people have been left wondering what they actually just saw happen, so I like that mystery to it as well. But I would recommend Willow Creek. I gave Willow Creek 3.5 stars out of 5 and a heart. Then I checked out a classic film that I've been meaning to watch for ages, and that is Peeping Tom from 1960. This is one I watched again for my found footage watch list because I discovered this is actually influential on the evolution of the found footage genre, as well as psychological thrillers and slashers. Peeping Tom is one of the first films that put the audience in the eye of the killer. It has a very voyeuristic feel to it. It's quite perverse in that way, in that it does put you in the position of the killer as they are watching these women, as they are killing these women. It's a wonderful film. I would not be gobsmacked if you told me that Alfred Hitchcock had done it. It's got that wonderful dark, gritty psychological thriller element to it, wonderfully acted, beautiful setting, really fun scenes in terms of the kills. Each one is very different. It was apparently very controversial on release because of the sexual nature and the violence, but now it just seems to be accepted as a classic, as a must watch, and if not one that people like, at least it is respected for the influence it's had on later films. I gave Peeping Tom 4.5 stars out of 5 and a heart. Every strong month has a blip, and this month on the 8th of March I went to watch Imaginary, this year's new release. Now I have done an episode with my thoughts on that, so I won't go into it too much here, but I gave Imaginary 2 out of 5 stars. I have seen lots of people giving it 1 star and half star. I've seen lots of people claiming this is the worst film ever made, the worst film of the year. Controversial opinion. I don't agree with that. I disliked Night Swim more than I disliked Imaginary. I don't think Imaginary is a great film. I don't think it's a good film. I think it's an okay film. It is acceptable. It passed the time. I think there is an audience for this film. I think this is for younger audiences, people just dipping their toe into horror. If you want my more in-depth thoughts, I will leave a link to my review here, or you can just find it in my catalogue of episodes after this episode. Okay, then my mini-me was off ill one day and we just wanted to watch something that was visually pleasing, not really mentally stimulating, and just kind of cozy. So we watched Luca from 2021. This is a film that I haven't seen before. My mini-me had seen it on the plane to Iceland and was happy to rewatch it. I love anything in a water setting. I love the Mediterranean as well. I am actually part Italian on my mum's side, so this film being set in Italy and by the water, you could not get more visually pleasing, honestly. It's like Sarah just wrapped up in a bow. But Luca, this film is so beautiful, so visually beautiful. And the story is so sweet. It's so, so cute. There are undertones of sexuality here. There are undertones of not belonging somewhere, of being an outsider. It is one that you can apply to many people, I think. These characters, a lot of people could identify with them. I mean, they are literally a fish out of water, but that feeling of you don't quite fit in, and then finding people you connect with, finding that home, finding where you belong. It's such a timeless story, but done so well in this little sweet compact story. I gave Luca 4 out of 5 stars and a heart. Then on the 14th of March, I re-watched Insidious from 2010. The reason I watched this is because I did a commentary track on it for my Patreon page. If you would like to become a Patreon member and have a listen to my commentary tracks, there is a link in the description box below. I gave Insidious 4 out of 5 stars and a heart. Then I did a brand new watch of An American Werewolf in London from 1981. This is one that I have been wanting to watch for a long time because this is actually one of my mum's favourite horror films. And, I love all the classic universal monster creatures like vampires and werewolves and mummies and things like that. So yeah, I waited far too long to watch this. I really, really had a good time with this. It goes without saying that the special effects, the practical effects, are mind-blowing. I mean, my goodness, back in the day, incredible, but still to this day I'm watching it going, how did they do that? That is, I don't know, it's so exciting. I think as a fan of practical effects, like people get excited for The Thing, I was there with this. The transformation scene is memorable and iconic for a reason. I was mesmerized by it. I was also surprised by this film because I had no idea that this was actually a dark comedy. I had no idea there was so much humor in it. And usually I'm not a huge fan of dark comedies or horror comedies. Some work really well, not all. This did. This worked for me. I appreciated the humour in this one. Loved the lead character. I can't remember his name, but he was brilliant in this. His friend was as well. I would have liked more screen time with him. They were really good. And actually another criticism or complaint of mine would come from that is some of my favourite parts of the film at the very beginning, where the two of the boys, young men, are walking through the moors and then they go to the pub, the Slaughtered Lamb. I would have much preferred more time spent in the countryside on the moors with these two characters talking, being at the Slaughtered Lamb, than you get at the hospital. I feel like the biggest chunk of the runtime is spent in the hospital, and that could have been shortened down and the beginning could have been lengthened. Other than that, no other complaints. I loved this film so much. I cannot wait to rewatch it at some point. I know there's a sequel. Is it An American Werewolf in Paris? I've heard that's not as good, but I might check that out at some point. I gave An American Werewolf in London 4 out of 5 stars and a heart. I told you it was a good month. Okay, then I watched one that I don't know if many of you will be interested in this, but on the 16th of March, I watched the Downton Abbey film, A New Era, from 2022. Back in the day, I did used to watch Downton Abbey. I love a period drama, love historical settings, and what appealed to me with Downton Abbey was it covered the sinking of the Titanic, the Second World War, and going into the 20s and the change of the aristocracy. Is it the best period drama ever made? Probably not. Visually beautiful, costume department and set props beyond, but there are stronger adaptations. I would say the best one is the 1995 BBC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, starring Jennifer Earle and Colin Firth. I gave Downton Abbey A New Era 3 out of 5 stars. Okay, then on the 21st of March, I watched Grave Encounters from 2011. This is another found footage film that I wanted to check out. I love Gone Gem Haunted Asylum, and this really reminded me of that, being set in a haunted asylum, a haunted mental hospital. It's a very creepy setting. It's one of many, I think. Is it called Boo? That's another one that's set in a haunted asylum. But this one worked. This was yet another strong found footage film. My appreciation of this subgenre has just grown so much during March because of researching it, but then really picking out some really strong entries in this subgenre. This one was not my favourite of the ones that I watched this month, but it was a good time. My thing with found footage, you see, I get really bad motion sickness, and there are a lot of these films that trigger that, but Grave Encounters didn't. It was all right. You know, the use of technology and the cameras worked really well for me. It didn't make me feel sick. And it was genuinely creepy. There were moments that genuinely unnerved me. The ones that worked better, as is with a lot of films, were the ones where what had happened was left to your imagination. So there's a moment where a character goes missing. I won't say who and I won't spoil anything, but they go missing. And in that time, you don't know where they are. You don't know what's happened. I think you hear a scream at one point, and that is far more effective because in your brain you're filling in the gaps of what could have happened to them. So I really liked that element. The reason for them not leaving worked as well. You've got that thing of, well, why have they got the cameras on and why are they keeping them on? And the fact that they're making a show, that's why the cameras are on. And the reason they keep them on is not only do they still want to capture footage, but they are using the lights from the camera as well, because it's nighttime all the time and they only have the torches and like the cameras on their the lights on the cameras. So that really works for me as well. I did say in my review that this film did eventually feel so nihilistic in the end. It just felt so bleak and hopeless. And I said between the, what did I say? My stomach's grumbling. Said between the coughing and the rat, I was done. And my friend Rosie said, well, I have to watch this now. And I said, I know it's so vague. She's like, I have to watch it based on that because that's so vague. I was like, I know it is, but I want to say my opinion, but I don't want to spoil it. So between the coughing and the rat, I was out by the end. It felt so bleak and hopeless. I also had 2 points. I was like, who found their footage in the end? Because if you've seen the film, you know, like, who found that footage? And the other one was that guy named Matt or Max? Because I swear down, the other characters were shouting both Matt and Max throughout the film. But it was a good time. I gave Grave Encounters 3.5 stars out of 5. And I am very excited about seeing Grave Encounters 2. Okay, then, I don't know. This one and Creep are kind of battling it out for my favourite found footage film that I watched this month. But then I watched on the 22nd of March As Above, So Below from 2014. This film was phenomenal. So this is a film that is set in Paris, and they go down into the catacombs underneath Paris, all the different sort of tunnels and alleyways. And when this film originally came out, I was terrified of it. I'm quite claustrophobic and I get motion sickness, so I thought a found footage film in these tiny tunnels, a la The Descent, really, really scared me. And so when I watched this, I was so proud of my grown-up self, thinking, 2014 Sarah would be so proud of this. It deals with Dante's Inferno and the 9 Circles of Hell. Very, very clever, very, very, well, just delicious topic for a horror film. Again, I've said before, I love anything to do with history, but also legends and lore. Anything that's very Uncharted, as some of you will know, is my favourite game franchise, or Indiana Jones or Tomb Raider, anything like that where they're exploring and there's these experts who can read ancient languages and know this person from history or this literature from history. I love it so much. And that was just this film. It was just so wonderfully curated around this idea of the 9 Circles of Hell. Really, really good. Some really good scares. I would say that same with Grave Encounters. As it went on and the more you saw, the less scary it became. It was scarier in the beginning when stuff was left to your imagination. By the end of the film, I wasn't scared. I was still loving it, but I wasn't scared. But this one, so good. I gave As Above, So Below 4 out of 5 stars and a heart. And like I said, this and Creep could battle it out for favourite found footage film of the month that I watched. But definitely these two would both be in my top 5 found footage films. So, so good. Then on the 23rd of March, I went to see Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I have done a review for this on my Patreon page for my Patreon members. They know my full thoughts on it. I was a huge fan of Ghostbusters as a child. I couldn't say Ghostbusters, so I called it Go Budders, but I absolutely loved it. And the Ghostbusters theme song is one of my favourite songs, unironically. I love it so much. I enjoyed Afterlife and I enjoyed Frozen Empire. Are they as good as the original film? No. But what they do is they keep that childlike wonder and magic and whimsy of the original one. These are films that do not take themselves too seriously. There is humour running throughout it. It is a light-hearted it is in the horror world because it's ghosts, but it's a light-hearted one. It's a gateway one. It's family fun. Visuals, yeah, great. We're back in New York. We're back in the firehouse. We're back in Ecto 1. It's just a fun time. And nothing is better than Ecto 1 firing up its sirens and the theme tune kicking in. That to me is the epitome of cool. I gave Ghostbusters Frozen Empire 3.5 stars out of 5 and a heart. Okay, then I watched on the 24th of March, I rewatched the original Omen from 1976. Again, you guys will see that I did an Omen recap episode. If you want to see that to prepare yourself for the release of the first Omen, I will leave a link to it here. Or again, you can just go and check my back catalogue. But I rewatched the Omen. This is the second time I've seen this now. Very, very quickly become one of my favourites horror movies. I love this. I love 70s horror. I love religious horror. So really good time. Yeah, this was just a rewatch for the recap, but enjoyed it so much. And actually rewatching this got me excited for the first Omen. I gave the Omen 4 out of 5 stars and a heart. Okay, then on the 25th of March, I went to see Immaculate. I have done a whole episode review of Immaculate, so if you want to know my thoughts on it, go and watch that. But I really, really did love it. And you know what? I have loved it more and more since I saw it. I came out of the cinema. I was talking to Sarah from Possessed by Horror about it. And we were talking about it as soon as I'd walked out of the cinema. I was waiting to get home. And I was just like, wow, what was that? I think she'd said that it made her cry at the end. And for me, I just felt like I'd been slapped around the face. And I just thought, what was that? I'd loved it, but it had left me feeling a particular way. I'd had a very visceral reaction to it. But then having thought about it after, a few hours and then do my review and then still thinking about it days later. I just loved this film. I said in my review that I will be interested to see where this comes in my ranking at the end of the year. I predict definitely top 10, perhaps top 5. It's my favourite horror I've seen so far this year. Granted, I've not seen things like The First Omen yet or Late Night with the Devil, but yeah, loved it. And what's her name? Sydney Sweeney. I'm a little bit in love with her. I want to watch, is it Oculus she's in? Because her and horror, great combination. I gave Immaculate 4 out of 5 stars and a heart. Okay, then on the 28th of March, I watched the second Omen. I think it's called Damien, the Omen II. It's from the 1978, so it's actually only done 2 years after the first one. I'm hoping after I've seen the first Omen, I'll do a review of that one, but I'm considering doing a ranking of the franchise. I might do that for my Patreons, but I might do it on this page. I haven't done a ranking in a while, so it'd be quite fun to do one, and because I've recently discovered this love of this franchise, I thought that would be a fun one to do. So I started watching The Omen 2 and was really surprised by how good a sequel this is. This is a really strong direct sequel, and I had such a good time with it. The guy, the lad, the teen, the kid who played Damien was so good. Such a good performance. It also had a couple of returning characters and references to characters from the original film, so it felt like a very organic sequel. It felt like it fit in that world. Another strong point for me was the score of the film. This sequel and the original have a really good score, and an interesting point about The Omen 2 is it kind of becomes a little bit more slasher. It has this element of these people have been killed off one by one, but by like this unseen force. It does feel more like a slasher, but the kills are so creative and varied. There are some spectacular death scenes in this, some really memorable ones. I don't know if I should say them because that might be a spoiler if you've not seen it. I won't. I'll leave it. Go and check them out, but some really good creative kills. I gave Damien The Omen 2 3.5 stars out of 5 and a heart. Then on the 29th of March, I checked out my final found footage film of the month, and that was Ghostwatch from 1992. This is one that I have been dying to watch since I was doing my research into the found footage subgenre, because this is a British found footage, but it was a live, it was broadcast as a live TV show. And now you can just, sort of watch it as a film. So I was so excited about this. It was inspired by the Enfield hauntings, which are also the case that inspired The Conjuring 2. And when you watch it, you can really see that from the girl's bedroom with the 2 beds and the posters on the wall. There's a still image in it that's like a recreation of one from the Enfield haunting case. It's an interesting concept that they used real TV presenters that were recognisable in the 90s. I mean, Craig Charles was an actor as well. He was in Red Dwarf. He's Lister in Red Dwarf. But then there's also Michael Parkinson. The Michael Parkinson interview show was huge in the 90s. Absolutely huge. You have this thing of it's a live show. There's the call-in centre. There's people, out in the field, as it were. And then there's those in the studio. Really good setup. I can 100% see how people were scared when this went out. It's genuinely creepy in parts. Genuinely creepy. There was moments where there's this little door. I won't go into details, but there's this little door, and anytime someone was going near it or looked like they were going to go into it, I would back away from it, like, don't go in the little door. Just leave it. You don't need to do that. You don't need to investigate that noise. It's fine. It will rectify itself. So really, really creepy, really well executed. Another one, bringing it in for found footage. So I gave Ghostwatch 4 out of 5 stars, and then I can't believe this is how we're ending this wrap up, but hey, let's go with it. On the 31st of March, I watched Irish Wish, which is the new Lindsay Lohan film released this year on Netflix. Okay, let me explain myself. I'm not really a rom-com kind of girl. I don't mind things like Dirty Dancing because there's dancing in it, but just wait for the car to go by. Don't mind me just trying to film. Not like I'm trying to do anything professional or anything. So, when you go onto Netflix, you get like a little teaser clip from the show or the film. And this brought up a little teaser clip of Lindsay Lohan talking to this guy. And I was like, hang on a second. I recognise that hedge. I recognise that bit of stone. I knew instantly that they were filming at Kilruddery House in County Wicklow, Ireland. And let me tell you, County Wicklow Island is one of the most beautiful places in the world. I went on holiday there last year, first time to Ireland, and we really looked out. We were in like the Garden of Ireland, the most beautiful county, beautiful weather. And we went to Kilruddery House because they filmed the Tudors there. They also filmed the Turning there. And I really, really wanted to see it. So that's why we went to County Wicklow. Kilruddery House is stunning. If you see an Irish Wish, then you will know. It's just a beautiful place. County Wicklow is beautiful. And I thought, right, if they're filming there, they might be using more of the surrounding area. And I want to watch this film so I can see this area that I went to and fell in love with. It turns out that some of it was filmed in County Wicklow. Some of it was filmed... Oh, I've forgotten the name. It's on the west coast though, and it's the village part of the film. That also looks stunning. There was also like, what was it, like Cliffs of Moher or something? Oh my god, Ireland in itself is just beautiful. I want to go back, but I want to go to the west coast this time. Just stunning. Oh yeah, I left a little bit of my heart in Ireland, just fell in love with it so much. But this film, let's talk about the film, eh? Not a great film, not a good film, but it's an okay film. It feels very much like a Hallmark romance, and it's not the best writing, it's not the best performance, and my god, the costume department. Interesting choices, but this film is a fun time and a good time. I genuinely enjoyed myself watching this. I went into it just to see the setting, but genuinely found myself having a good time. It was so nice to see Lindsay Lohan back in a film, looking so pretty and healthy. She's really good at comedic delivery, so that was really nice. The chemistry between her and her love interest, not the, you know, the one she wants to be with, but the one she's supposed to be with, that chemistry was wonderful. He did a really good job. So yeah, I watched Irish Wish. And that is apparently how I'm ending my March catch up on my horror channel. But hey, we'll go with it. I gave Irish Wish 2 out of 5 stars and a heart. So sorry for the long duration. I'm trying to rely less on script and more just on the spot my thoughts of these films. But the problem is, with a script, you kind of know how long the episode's going to be. When I'm just winging it, you don't. And so it ends up quite long like this chunker. So I do apologise. But that is everything that I watched in the month of March. It was a really, really strong month, and I just loved so many films in it. Ooh, okay, so what I'm starting to do in these monthly wrap-ups is a pick of the month, and usually I go with the 5-star rating, but there isn't actually any 5 stars this month. A lot of 4s, a lot of 4.5s, a lot of films I loved. I loved The Omen, I loved As Above So Below, I loved Creep, but my top pick of the month, I'm gonna go with Immaculate, I think, because it was a new release, because I had such a visceral reaction to it, because it's lingered with me for days after. Immaculate of 2024 is going to be my pick of the month for March. Let me know down below any of these that you have seen and really loved as well. Have you seen Immaculate yet? Do you love these found footage films? Have you seen Ghostwatch or anything like that? Let me know your favourite watches of the month as well. I love having recommendations. Although my watch list is ridiculously long, there's always room for more. That's my motto. If you found me through this episode and you're new here, then please do click the like button and the subscribe button so you don't miss out on coming up content or back content. There are going to be a few more reviews coming out, as April is a very busy month for releases. I may have already released it, but I'm doing a new releases for the month of April. If I have, I will leave a link to it here. That is everything coming out in the theatres and on streaming, brand new releases for you to watch. And if you would like to join these names here and get access to extra content, I do try to post every single week, then there is a link to my Patreon page in the description box below. But in the meantime, thank you as always for stopping by. I really, really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye.